I'd like to start by asking for a volunteer from the audience. Now, I don't have a well-parented child to be as my assistant, so if someone can volunteer, anyone? Just one taker? Max. OK. I know him, so this is slightly unfair, but we haven't talked this through prior. So Max, what I need you to do, you know me, so you know you're expecting something like this. I need you to guess and estimate the amount of fart that the average person produces in a day. OK, so think about what kind of amount of gas the average person flatulates in a day, and fill this balloon to that volume. OK, and when you're done, just hold it out in the air. OK, so gas is produced by microbes inside of our bodies. So as we digest our food, microbes are doing that work for us, and they're what's producing the gas. OK, so hold it up. So that's the volume that my assistant Max has guessed, and this is the actual volume. So you did a much better job than I was expecting. The actual volume, I'm not going to tell you how I measured this, but I'm sure. It's 1.5 liters of gas per person per day. So as a reward, you can take that back to your seat. You can take the 2 if you want. It will make fart sounds as you release it. OK, so that's what the average person makes, 1.5 liters of gas per day. But how does that compare to a cow? Now, one cow in one day produces 250 to 500 liters of gas just in one day, which is, yeah, a lot of gas, especially if you consider that there's 1.5 billion cows, billion with a B. So when we have a lot of mooers, we have a lot of pooers. And in fact, we have a problem with manures. You see, those microbes that are inside the cow are still in the manure, and they're still digesting it, and they're still producing gas. Specifically, they're producing carbon dioxide and methane. Now, you might have heard about carbon dioxide. It's this really bad greenhouse gas. So it's capturing sunlight energy as heat, and our planet is warming because of that. You might not have heard as much about methane, but methane is a really potent greenhouse gas. In fact, just one molecule of methane, shown here, captures as much heat energy as do 21 molecules of carbon dioxide. So this is a really serious problem, this fact that gas from manure is warming our planet. You could say it's a problem that is silent, but deadly. The answer to it, part of it at least, is staring us right in the face. You see, what do we do about cow farts? We can light them on fire. So methane is a flammable gas. So in theory, we can capture this gas as it's produced from manure, and we can use it to fuel engines, and we can run generators to make electricity, and we can use it like natural gas for heat. So this sounds maybe a bit crazy. Almost everybody laughed. But it's something we're doing on a commercial scale. So in the world, there are over 8,000 commercial biogas reactors like this. What is a biogas reactor? Well, it's a very fancy term for big, fake cow stomach. You see, they're big containers, and we put materials like manure and agricultural wastes and food wastes and biogas crops, biomass crops, and we put them inside of these containers, and microbes, just like inside the cow, microbes digest it. And as it's digesting, they're producing methane, which we can use as fuel, and once those materials are digested, we can spread them as fertilizer that doesn't emit methane. So this is pretty cool, but the question now is, what can we feed these machines to produce the most possible gas? Well, what we feed them has to fit 4 criteria. It needs to be cheap, it needs to be available, it needs to be environmentally sustainable, and it shouldn't compete with food production. And that leads to my research on the common reed, what a mighty weed. Look at these fields, they have such high yields. Can we turn you into power through a machine that devours you? Take this tall grass and make some biogas. You see, there's this plant called the thank you. There's this plant called the common reed, and it's come over from Eurasia, and it's invaded North America. You might have seen it along the 401 highways, if you're Canadian, or some highways in the States, I just can't name them. but it's a 4-meter tall plant. And in our ditches, what it's doing is it's clogging our drains, which is causing a big issue for farms. And it's not just in our ditches. In fact, it's covered a lot of wetlands. And when it moves into a wetland, it kicks out the native plant species like cattail and some of the native wildlife and the bird species as well. So people are really trying to get rid of it. What are they doing? Well, we're spraying herbicides on it, and then we're rolling it over, and then we're burning it. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of money, and it's not really that effective. It just grows back, or eventually it moves back in. So that's why our research team has been trying to use it for energy. So what we've been doing is going out into the field with meter square quadrats like this, and we go and we take measurements and we take samples, and we find that on average, just 1 square meter of this common reed produces about 5 kilograms of fresh material. So there's a lot of biomass there. Now, what happens when we try to make energy from it? Well, we take it back to the lab, mix it with manure, and it produces methane. In fact, just 1 square meter of this grass will produce 450 liters of methane. Now, that's about 2 standard barrels of methane. But what does that mean in terms of energy production? Well, if we were to burn that methane in a generator and produce electricity, we would make enough electricity to run an efficient LED light bulb like this for 8 hours a day for about 2 months. So I think that's pretty cool that we can take this invasive problem plant and turn it into electricity. But the research doesn't stop there, because it's more complicated than just that. Because we need to weigh the benefits with the negatives, and we need to see what the actual balance of all of these things are. So what is the risk of spreading this plant further? If we're working with it, are we going to exacerbate the problem? How much does it cost us to harvest this plant? What is the carbon footprint? I mean, if we're out there with machines and we're transporting it, there's going to be some kind of environmental cost. On the other hand, we also get energy from it. So by making this renewable energy, we might change this carbon footprint balance. What is the effect on the native species? Will cattail come back? Can we manage Phragmites stands? Can we manage this common reed in a way that is sustainable environmentally? And what financial gain do we get from it? So on the whole, I think we live in an amazing time where, yes, there are very scary problems like climate change and rising demands for sustainable energy. But for the first time, our species has come together to figure out how to take sunlight energy, collect it in plants, and find all kinds of ways, this is just one, but find all kinds of ways to make energy from those plants and turn that into electricity to make artificial light. So I think it's an exciting time, and I thank you for your time.